Well, good morning, Houston. This is Oscar Hines. Welcome to Ninja Talks, where we have an opportunity to mix it up with some of the fabulous minds and personalities that move through these amazing spaces. And today we are privileged to have back with us Miss Shawn Eaglin. Good morning, Shawn. How are you?
Good morning, Oscar. How are you?
It is good to see your smiling face. I love it. So how have you been since our last visit?
I've been informed.
Informed.
It's been an interesting I guess it's been what, 2 months?
A couple of months. That's right. That's right.
Months.
Yes.
Just keeping myself informed on everything going on. Trying to be, conscious of COVID and
Yes.
keeping my distance.
Yes.
Wearing my mask, which is why I'm glad we're 6 feet apart.
That's right.
But just being grateful.
Yes.
Grateful that we're still here.
Yes. Well, 2021 is almost here, and it's going to prove to be a very interesting and exciting and what I might consider a pretty pivotal year as we come out of 2020.
And we're all ready for it.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you know what? I'm never sure if people are ready or not. Like I literally have gotten my general attitude is that I've become comfortable with uncertainty. And it's taken me a long time to do that.
Interesting.
but
I think it's just the hopes of that silver lining, that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
The vaccine.
Yes.
Seeing how that rolls out.
Right.
People are ready for that, spring or summer of next year. I think that's why people are so anxious.
Well, I know the optimists always say that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but some years ago I heard a pessimist respond to that, and he said, well, the light at the end of the tunnel could be an oncoming train.
That's true. Well, let's be hopeful.
Let's not think that.
That is not, but we've already hit the oncoming train. It seems like this year has been, even my grandmother now, someone in their 70s is like, I've been through a lot, and this has just been surreal.
Yes.
This year has been like nothing I've ever experienced. Now that's crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Coming from someone who's gone through the civil
rights
period.
70 plus years.
Like seeing everything, and she feels as though this has been the craziest of time.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, I think like if you look back, what is it, 68? That would have been around Martin Luther King's death. Mm-hmm. Robert Kennedy's death. Mm-hmm. Well, Malcolm X would have died a few years earlier. Mm-hmm. There would be protests. There would be war going on. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that was very pivotal because of how things unfolded. And someone in their 70s would have been in their prime during that whole thing. So for her to say that,
you know why I think that they feel this way, because I think they got it a little bit before we did, that normalcy as we know it will never be the same.
Yeah.
Literally.
True. Right?
I don't think it'll ever be the same. In the sense of even the way some companies are handling employment now and working off site remotely. I feel like a lot of companies will probably keep that.
Yeah. Same
sentiment. I feel like, normalcy will not be what we experienced prior to COVID.
No, you're right. It's been a total paradigm shift. Corporations are definitely looking at remote as the new way of being.
Yeah.
That comes with some advantages, but it also comes with some challenges.
Yeah. It does.
And when I think about what those are, it's a little bit, I guess, disturbing. So by that, what I mean is, okay, we're both parents, right? Mm-hmm. It's nice to be able to spend time with the children and all of that. Remote is great. You get a chance to have, time in your own environment. Mm-hmm. So for all those reasons, I think it's really good. Mm-hmm. But there's another part of that where now that we're in this virtual space all the time, what essentially could be happening is, like I saw something that was highly disturbing, and you probably would have seen this, but I want to remind the audience, because some of you guys might have. It was called deep fakes.
No, I haven't seen that.
So this concept of deep fake is just like you and I are here right now. Mm-hmm. There is the ability to take what's known in the industry as CGI,
Mhm.
just CGI our
Mhm.
face. In other words, just like this background is virtual,
Mhm.
they create a virtual space to take place. Your voice is synthesized into a artificial intelligence device
Oh
that
goodness.
now allows a script to be typed or to be produced that sounds like you.
Oh,
The
see, no.
CGI looks like
Very
you.
disturbing.
The words coming out of your mouth. They did one with Obama saying stuff that was completely opposite of everything he
Oh my
believed in.
God.
And I mean, they let you watch it for a good minute, and he's talking about something, and you're like, he would never say
Say
those
that, yeah.
things. And then they say this is deep
But this is
fake.
what, yes. Oh my
it's a
God.
it's a manipulation of information, and the technology has gotten so good that you really can't distinguish it. I mean, when you look at it sort of in
That's scary.
retrospect, when you look at, like, they line them up
Yeah,
side by side and
scary.
you see the actual Obama, then you say, oh, wait a minute, that looks, something's off. But when you're just
But the
looking
natural
at it,
eye, yeah.
your brain is registering, this is who it is, we're used to him.
So this makes me think of, okay, now we have even another level of cyber crime, of identification theft. Can you imagine?
It's scary.
Oh, this is
Well,
scary.
there was a movie. Some
Mm.
some of you guys might remember this, and I imagine you would. It was oh my gosh. It's with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's right at the tip of my tongue. It was
What was the preface of what was
well, the premise was that it was based on reality not actually being real. That
Oh yes,
everything is
the island. Something.
eh,
There was one that was something.
well, it wasn't about like the one when he went to the island and there
But
were all
remember, that wasn't
insane
really real
people.
either.
Right. That was not really Interception. Inception. Thank you.
Inception.
Thank you. Our producer got it. See what happens with all this snow on the roof. Okay, so Inception was a fascinating movie, and he started out when he was talking to the guy that would become his nemesis in
Hmm.
there. He asked the question. He posed the question: what's the most contagious thing on Earth? And of course, the concept would be a virus, right?
Hmm. But
But he said no. The most contagious thing is information
that's so true
because
because it
oh
goes like
man,
that.
if right now if we got some piece of news that Joe Biden did X, Y, or Z, or
Hmm.
Kamala Harris was involved in this or whatever, all of a sudden that information would spread like
Hmm.
wildfire.
Hmm.
It would spread faster than a virus
Oh
because
yes,
the mainstream media or whomever is
everybody's gonna
controlling this
receive it.
would
Everybody's
disseminate it,
going
and it would
exactly,
happen instantly because we got these things all the
exactly,
time.
exactly.
So it really is disturbing how misinformation is now a tool of, I guess you
Oh
could
yeah.
call it war, a
Oh yeah.
misinformation war.
Inner war, national war, international war. It's like now you see what's going on with now they're bringing up the Russia situation again, and it's like because people have such a I don't know anxiousness about, well, is this fact, is this fake news? It kind of convolutes everything now.
Mhm.
You don't know what to believe because it's so much misinformation or altered information. It's
It's scary.
uncertainty. Isn't that
Yeah.
scary?
Oh yeah. Well, Russia. Well, see, and this is the thing, and I really believe this because I've been a student of this for so many years. I believe that there's always been a misinformation.
I believe
There
it.
there just is now technology that really pushes it out
Yeah,
faster.
yeah.
If you talk about Russia, Russia is masters at this. The KGB back in the 40s and 50s when the Cold War started, they really really focused on planting individuals,
Mhm.
misinformation campaigns. You
Mhm.
know, these guys invented chess.
Spy world, the whole
Oh
spy.
my
Yeah.
God. And
That
they're
we're
good
fascinated
at it.
with. Yeah.
Oh, they're so good at it. So, you know, they've been involved, for example, in what they call compromat or compromise. So you get somebody that, let's say, travels to Moscow, and
Mhm.
let's even say that they started a Miss America pageant in Moscow.
Mhm. Mhm.
Let's go a little further. Let's say that the red carpet was rolled out and that cameras were all present and certain things took place in certain
Mhm.
rooms that were recorded.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now the person's compromised. Now
Mhm.
what? Now you're gonna try to avoid political disaster, so you're gonna do whatever you're told to do.
Yeah.
Or you know, because my challenge is when somebody's as abrasive as number
Mhm.
45
Oh
and
God.
as cantankerous in every single instance,
Mhm.
just cantankerous, angry, aggressive,
Oh yes.
you know,
Delusional.
revengeful,
Yeah. Delusional.
delusional. Then all of a sudden, when it comes to Russia, you got this sweet talking, oh, they're great, and there's,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, there's no problems there.
Mhm.
Something is amiss.
Something is amiss, and so I'm wondering, well, you've seen or heard that now he's just pumping out these presidential pardons. And I'm like, okay, something, like his son-in-law. I'm like, something is going on here. Why are you so adamant with? Well, it's the first time a president has done it for family members. I'm like,
So give us a
this
little
is
more on that
interesting.
because I've been
He's just
I've been
he's
detached from you.
so he's pretty much filed for pardons for his daughter. Everybody that's worked with him, that's family,
Oh,
including the son-in-law.
oh,
And so people are like, what is this about? So
oh.
there's something underlining going
I
on.
I guess if they hadn't been indicted yet, how could you pardon them? Or if they had?
No, for future. It's
Oh,
pardon, yeah. So for future.
is that legal that you can pardon someone before a crime has been
Well, yeah, you
officially
can pardon
accused?
someone. But I don't know. So the politics in New York is as such is they passed a law that in their state. Now, I guess they will be the only state. Even if it's a presidential pardon, it will not fly there. They
Right.
can still prosecute, which is unprecedented, right? So I'm assuming that they've done something either with, I'm thinking business wise, maybe with the Trump Corporation, and maybe some country, some things that they weren't supposed to be doing, I guess,
Mhm.
while he's in office, because he's still in office until January. But it was very interesting that New York, that she wanted to pass that law so much that, so they must know something
Oh yeah.
that we don't know.
Right. Well, that's the
Um,
Southern District,
so
and
they can be prosecuted there.
those district attorneys are super aggressive. But
Mm.
my understanding is, from what I hear, is that they want to keep that state law separate because there are indictments that are in waiting for
For them,
when
for
January
well,
20th
yeah,
hits. And a sitting president, they
yeah, you
believe
can't.
couldn't be
Yeah,
indicted.
you can't.
But as soon as the new swearing in takes place,
Hmm.
he becomes very, very susceptible, which is
And some
part of.
people feel like that's why he was fighting so hard to
Oh,
stand off, so
absolutely.
he could have another 4 years to figure out what he's gonna do.
Exactly.
You know.
And
So
really, those 4 years would have given him a chance to negotiate his pardon, his freedom, whatever the
exactly.
case might be. Or maybe he moves to Russia
Now
and
here,
seeks
that would
asylum.
be smart, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, so whatever's going on, he had the kiddos, I guess, were delegating and
That's
pretty
right.
much
And
directing behind the scenes.
uh-huh.
Because why would you ask a pardon for them? Like, that makes no sense.
Right,
So that
right.
must be, I'm assuming, what was going on.
Oh no, it's fascinating stuff. So folks, you are listening to Ninja Talks. This is the Edge Radio Network. We are live here at Midtown Bar and Grill. I am speaking with the wonderful Miss Shawn Eaglin. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with this conversation, dive a little bit deeper in what's happening with the politics here in Houston, not just Houston, I'm sorry, throughout the country. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment.
We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be gone in an instant. Now there's a smart, affordable way to protect your family. Go to findhealthbenefits.com and discover low-cost life insurance for as little as $2 per month. Add to that a tax-deferred annuity that can help you protect your assets and grow your money for retirement. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com. or call 877-235-6094. A critical illness can strike without warning and wipe out your life savings. In fact, it's the #1 reason for bankruptcy. Find Health Benefits offers an affordable solution. Get up to $50,000 if you get cancer, stroke, or a heart attack, giving you the peace of mind to focus on getting better while the plan helps you to pay your bills and medical expenses. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. 66% of seniors spend more time shopping for cable TV than Medicare plans. Most say because it's just too confusing. Laws change every year. The wrong plan could cost you thousands and prevent you from seeing the doctors you want. Introducing findhealthbenefits.com. Save time, save money, see specialists without referrals. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094 for this informative brochure.
Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
And we are back. This is the Edge Radio Network. You are listening to Ninja Talks. I am here with Shawn Eaglin. Shawn, so just before our break, we were talking about all these changes, some of the misinformation that's shifting around, but you brought up something during the break, and I think it's good to discuss that because Texas is the largest state in the union. Texas has always been an independent state. In fact, in the Texas Constitution, it is written that Texas can secede from the Union at any point in time, and they've kept that threat, so to speak, over the head of many of the countries because, of course, Texas contributes in a large way to this national economy.
Mm-hmm.
But Texas took a very bold step. Give us a little bit more insight on what that was.
So most of us are already aware that our governor, our great governor, spearheaded some would call a coup to overthrow the election. And they were trying to do it right before the Electoral College, cast that final vote, right? And of all states, we would be the state to spearhead. I can't remember how many other states we had. Anyway, I don't remember exactly how many other states we had to, to join us, but we pretty much spearheaded it. Now, of course, it went nowhere. We already know what the Supreme Court did. And I feel like Trump is probably somewhere screaming and kicking because he felt like his appointees would, you know, back him up or cause some kind of ruckus, and no one supported the foolishness.
Yes, yes.
Um,
So the premise was that Texas, I guess, felt like there was a constitutional violation of their rights because these other states that they filed a suit against.
well, no, we didn't. They didn't file a suit. Well, they did, but it was pretty much just voter fraud. Voter fraud is what their
Allegedly.
premise was. Yeah,
Wow.
voter fraud, widespread voter fraud. But I guess no one still has proof. Now we all know you're always gonna have some discrepancy in voting. That's just that's what's so interesting to me. That's always gone on, but widespread voter fraud, you have to prove that. You can't prove, we had 100, and that could be a lot for one poll location, for sure. But the here and there, the hit and miss, it's not. There's no proof that there's some kind of conspiracy or, it's insane. So I'm wondering what they're going to do now, since Mr. Mitch has come out and told his his party, yeah, to hey, it's time to concede. Like, this is the Electoral College has already voted. He, Biden is, going to be sworn in as the next, 46th president of the United States. So,
well, there's a challenge that could still take place, because there's sort of this referendum type arrangement that that the Senate and the Congress have in January, where essentially they have to certify the Electoral College's decision. The challenge is that the Vice President, Mike Pence, is literally the head of or leader of that that referendum, and they essentially are saying that he is going to refuse to certify this new appointment of number 46. If that happens, then there's supposedly some legal loophole by which the 45 can continue in the presidency.
well, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because from my understanding, it's still the voting.
Yes.
So I don't see how he's going to be able to. Okay, he'll be certifying what the votes are. You can't not certify what, like.
Well, he can refuse to acknowledge it.
Well, he can refuse.
And if he refuses to acknowledge it, then supposedly from a legal standpoint, and if the Senate, and the Senate is, in my estimation, they've got a lot more power than perhaps they should, but if they are in agreement with his failure to certify, then that is the premise under which the current administration would theoretically continue to have power. But as you're saying,
but I don't think the Senate. There's not that much pushback with the Senate. I don't see that happening. All that I can, I guess, predict is that he will go against, just like 45 is going against what the Electoral College is saying, and what the voters said with this election. Pence will go against what the Senate. I mean, he would be going against what they're, which would be insane. Now what, and I don't know what is the next step after that, because it's never happened, so I don't know. Well, we'll start hearing it on CNN, and MSNBC and Fox.
I would say, in terms of procedurally, I've heard some of the talking heads say that if that were to happen, everybody has acknowledged that the Electoral College's votes were certified, that it was 303 to 236 or whatever it was, and that Joe Biden is in fact going to be the next president of the United States. So if Trump refuses to acquiesce,
if Pence refuses to acknowledge certification.
Right. It's still already established that.
So yeah, that's my thought. Like,
we have that. So then there would be some form of an overturn. I think that the challenge is
Would the
that
Supreme Court then have to be a part of it?
they would.
I
They,
thought because I'm assuming all three branches.
that's correct. So
Okay.
the Supreme Court would have to, in effect, as they did in Al Gore and George Bush's time, they would have to certify who the next new president would be. I
They've
think
already spoken.
yeah,
They've
spoken.
already
That's
refuted
right.
his
That's right.
claim.
That's exactly right.
So-
But it's a powerful thing because I would argue, if you look back, for those of us old enough to remember 2001, right after the election, the Bush administration was in some shape, form, or fashion involved in 9/11. That's just what I believe happened. There were too many disconnects for that not to be the case.
And too many connections with the families.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bush family was down with the Osama bin Laden group, going back to the father. But all of a sudden, after the towers fall, you have an airplane full of people from Saudi Arabia that suddenly get a private jet out of the country when the rest of the entire world was grounded after 9/11. No flights anywhere, but you got a private flight with 40, 50 so-called dignitaries from Saudi Arabia that left when 18 of the terrorists were from Saudi Arabia.
Isn't that something?
And then we go bomb Iraq. I mean, come on.
Very.
Come on.
We'll never know.
I mean, and somehow Americans take that stuff and they swallow it, and they get the Warren report, and it refutes everything, and then it goes away. It gets buried deep, and it's never brought up again.
Because once again, how do you decipher what's the fake news?
Yeah.
What's the actual facts? It's just hard now.
Yeah.
It's who can persuade you.
Right. Yeah. And that's what frustrates me, because the persuasion part sometimes is common sense. And I just feel like, unfortunately, in this country and perhaps in other countries, people are like lambs to a slaughter, so to speak. You see this corralling, like when I see cows, for an example, and they're being herded into the slaughterhouse. Some of them have some apprehension, but they don't have a choice. They're going to go this way, and the rest of them are going to trot on. And then when they get in there, that's the end. That's how I feel America has become. I feel like people are fed a bunch of BS on a regular basis, and it's groupthink. It's all groupthink. But
then even when you do, because I like to do my little side research, like the lady who was fired from CDC. I think it's been like 7 years ago. She was like Fauci's right-hand woman. Now she's campaigning against him on how she's claiming that they'll have a cure for a disease and they'll hold on to it.
Yeah.
For other purposes. And well, I'm sure you know about that.
Right.
But then you say, okay, well, do you believe her? Or you don't know if you don't know.
Oh yeah. Well,
so you can even do your own little research, and you're like, but who do I believe? Like, it's hard.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'd like to unpack this conversation around the vaccine. I've got a lot to say about that. I'm not sure where you stand, but when we come back, we're going to find out. Folks, you are listening to the Edge Radio Network. This is Ninja Talks. We are here with Shawn Eaglin. I'm Oscar Hines. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk vaccine. Back in just a moment. Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services.
Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters.
And we are back. This is the Edge Radio Network here at Midtown Live Bar and Grill. This is Ninja Talks, and we are having a great conversation. This has been fascinating so far. I want to get your take on the vaccine. What do you think? Now, Pfizer has come out with their vaccine. Moderna is supposed to be coming out next with their vaccine. What are your thoughts?
So I did read that, which is different from what my thinking was. They were saying that this vaccine, unlike the others, where they're putting the virus, in you, inserting the virus in you, this is a protein that they're inserting. So that's interesting to me. If this is something new, I'm like, well, how do they know? So it's kind of like, still experimenting,
right?
I guess. So I won't be taking part.
You won't be in line.
Not in the beginning now.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna kind of wait and see.
I would
how it unfolds.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I would agree with that.
So you're not in line.
I mean, I just have a lot to say in this space because it's something I think I've been sort of a bit of a student of vaccinations because of people that I have been engaged with in the health and wellness space that I move in. Okay. And I've interviewed naturopathic and holistic doctors about vaccinations for a long time.
Wow.
So for audience members, I want to just kind of unpack this a little bit. So a traditional vaccine, when we look at the traditional vaccines, let's say the measles, mumps, chickenpox, MR, vaccine, essentially just what you said. The premise is, and by the way, and for those who don't know this, I think this is a nice little side point, a historical side point. The concept of vaccinations was actually developed by an African American man. And that happened when, in the 1800s, a doctor who had a slave, this slave showed him how in Africa they would expose people to a little bit of the virus, the antibodies would be built up, and then that person would develop an immunity. And this doctor thought, let me try that. And he did. It was successful, and he got credit for inventing vaccinations. But let's go back to the vaccinations themselves. Kids are, it's compulsory in this country to get vaccinations. There are people out there right now that are listening to me that are going to think what I'm about to say is poppycock. Well, you could think that if you want, but I don't care because it's not poppycock. So here's the breakdown of vaccines. They put, as you just said, a weaker version of a virus into a vaccine, and then they inject that into your body. When that injection goes into your body recognizes this foreign entity, whatever that you'd call it, and then it creates antibodies for it. But in order for it to recognize those entities and create the antibodies, there's something called an adjuvant. An adjuvant is what irritates the body to open it up to accept the virus. There's some form of irritation that has to happen in order for this weaker virus to be accepted into the system. The problem with that is that the adjuvants that are being used, and guys, I'm not making this up. You guys can research this. This is egregious. The adjuvants that are being used are formaldehyde, lead, and mercury. I mean, really? Like, I just named 3 poisons. And they'll, oh, well, we put them in small doses so they don't affect it. BS. When you put any kind of formaldehyde, mercury, or lead into your system, it can cross the blood-brain barrier.
And so that's why there's that whole movement of individuals who feel as though this is why we have such a large, I guess the last 3 generations, such a large amount of autism, and they feel like that's the reason why vaccinations and making that a requirement for school.
Well, I've witnessed
public school.
I hate to say it. I've had 2 friends that had normal kids. They got vaccinated, and the kids screamed and screamed, became sensitive to sound, sensitive to noise, and basically became autistic. And they got those shots when they were like 1 year old, 2 years old, and they were normal functioning kids that after that were autistic. And these kids are teenagers. I've personally seen it from 2 friends. The challenge is that when you're injecting an adjuvant into a person's body, that blood-brain barrier is crossed. So even with flu shots, when seniors get flu shots, there's some correlation between that and Alzheimer's. So we have enough of a track record, despite what these naysayers or these vaxxers will say, that shows that there is a correlation. Now, the challenge with the whole thing, and this is the challenge with this current vaccine, which I haven't gotten into breaking that down.
Because it is different. It's not the virus they're injecting. It's a protein. So it's totally different than other vaccines.
Well, but here's
what they're saying.
But here's the thing, Shawn, and this is the part that nobody's talking about. And this is what frustrates me. That's why I think Americans are the least informed and probably the worst off of most people in this world because of misinformation. What they have is what's called an RNA recombinant. So when you and you're right, it's protein, but it's an RNA recombinant. Now we have DNA, we have RNA. These the RNA is sort of the blueprint that writes the code for the DNA, which is what makes us human. The challenge is that when you insert an RNA recombinant into the system, you are rewriting the genetic code of the human body. Now that should scare people for a number of reasons that they're not aware of. One of those reasons is the fact that once you change the genetic code, which has never been done before in any kind of quote unquote vaccine, there are potential side effects that can affect a person's body in the next year, in the next 10 years,
a lifetime.
Yeah,
that's the part.
And if you delve into the conspiracy theory side of this, then there could also be nanobots. A billionth is a nano, right? They can have these small bots or proteins that can be triggered by certain things, whether it be radio frequency, whether it be energetic frequencies, or whether it just be a chronological progression. So in other words, if I have an RNA code that I'm writing, I could tell you or your body when you hit 40 years old, you're going to develop an autoimmune disorder, and you're going to suddenly start losing your ability to fight pathogens across the board. If or when that happens, you can have mass numbers of people dying at a particular age with nothing they can do about it. So I think
well, we're not hearing, no one is really screaming it out,
yeah,
to the world on the news stations exactly what the vaccine is. All they're doing is saying protein.
right.
They're not saying, let's break this down. What exactly?
That's right.
Because they probably don't, people will not want to take it then most likely.
And no one's talking about the fact that for example, Moderna, which is being held out as the great hope in the vaccines. I know Pfizer came out first, but the Moderna vaccine requires regular refrigeration for 30 days versus sub-degree 80 degrees below freezing with the Pfizer vaccine. The problem is, and no one talks about this, well, Fauci owns stock in Moderna. So does the FDA, the head of the FDA. So does Bill Gates. I mean, come on. What if people that are advocating for this because it's a pandemic and they're here to save lives own stock in the company, is there not a conflict of interest?
Egregious. It's really insane. But because people's minds are on so many different things, the election, fear, the economy, health, war.
Right.
Now they're, bringing up Russia again. So it's you're not even thinking about the fine details until it comes on the news or someone,
Right. But if we operate under the premise, and that's where I think people need to be a little, I guess, moderate in their perception of this, is that sometimes we believe that mainstream media is actually telling us the truth.
Yeah, we don't want to listen to. We want to listen to that.
Yeah,
that's what we want to.
But when Trump goes and stands on the podium and calls it fake news, he's not entirely incorrect. I think people that are anti-Trumpers will say, "Oh, there's no such thing." But you watch mainstream news media and you watch the different outlets. They parrot each other. But I'm talking about word for word scripts. I'm also talking about the fact that four to five major entities own all the news agencies on the planet. What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah.
So
the narrative is going to be so similar, and once again, we probably won't. Well, unless you do your own research, us as a whole won't start getting that information of, what exactly is the breakdown of this vaccine, widespread until after it's been probably administered for like a year or two. And then as people start having reactions, and because everybody's, DNA, like you said, is different. People are going to react differently to this new, because like they said, this is unlike other vaccines. So this is something new. So obviously we're going to have some different, feedback.
So let me share this just before we go to the break. And this is a nasty little fact that nobody's talking about, but it is a nasty fact that because of the fact that this is declared an emergency, they have already passed legislation which precludes individuals from holding pharmaceutical companies liable in any shape, form, or fashion for this vaccine that has just come out.
Isn't that?
That's a scary proposition, because we already know that pharmaceutical companies that are not held accountable now for the vaccines that are causing autism and everything else, they're operating with impunity because they don't care about people. They care about profit. And if people act like they care about people, I just think it's unfortunate. Now, I might sound a little radical to some of you listening, but guys, look at the history. That's the thing. Those who don't learn from history are destined to repeat it. That's really where we're at in this country. We are about to go down a very dark path of fear-based activity that unfortunately could be to the demise of many people. So folks, I don't want to be the pessimist. I just want to be the realist that educates, informs, and maybe inspires. You're listening to Ninja Talks. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be wrapping up with Shawn Eaglin. Back in just a moment.
When people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
And we are back. This is the Edge Radio Network. I am speaking with Ms. Shawn Eaglin. I'm Oscar Hines, and this is the Ninja Talks. And we have been diving deep into this conversation around the vaccination and what's going on with this. So Shawn, it's safe to say that you don't feel comfortable with yourself or your loved ones getting this shot.
No,
right
and
now.
I'm holding back a cough because it's cold. So, guys,
that's okay.
cold.
Yeah.
But no, because it's so different. Like they're saying, this is not like any other vaccine. Okay, but you guys don't even have a true understanding of how the virus functions. So, how am I going to trust you on a vaccine that's like no other vaccine?
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
okay, so I'm going to let you do this experimenting.
Yeah.
And then I'll see.
At your expense.
Exactly. So, it's too convoluted. It's just not. And then they're not really, like I said, breaking down. Since it is like no other vaccine, why is there not more information about what the components are unless you go digging for it?
Right.
Why aren't they talking about that?
Oh yeah, well
that should be prime news.
Well, the was it MR5, NMR5? It's aborted fetal material, and that's in it.
But that's for the sensation. They, what about all the other components that are so
right? The problem with a vaccine like the one we're dealing with this is that the basis of what I mentioned earlier, that it rewrites the genetic code. There's all sorts of problems with that because if you look at GMOs, foods that are altered genetically, that's precisely what was done. They introduce an RNA recombinant into foods and they change the food. So the premise of that is it's for the betterment of mankind. So, for example, they put scorpion venom in tomatoes. Now, someone would say, why would anyone do that? Well, the reason they do that is because there are certain parasites, bugs that eat tomatoes that when they sense scorpion venom, they think a scorpion is near, so they don't eat the tomato. The problem is we humans are eating scorpion venom. So there's a problem with that. And this is across the board, all sorts of different foods that have been recombinated to accommodate either becoming more hardy in cold weather, or being sweeter, or being seedless, as in the case of grapes, which I happen to like. I never liked pits and grapes, but anyway, so all of those things are supposedly for our convenience. But when you start doing that to the human body, there's something inherently wrong with that.
This is totally
because the human body is vastly more complex than a fruit, and we have seen some of the problems that people have from consuming these fruits and vegetables that have been genetically modified. So in Europe, GMOs are banned for that reason. In this country, it's so pervasive that we're seeing.
So interesting.
Oh my God. Cancer is at all-time highs in this country. All the diseases, autoimmune disorders. You know, we take 95% of the prescription drugs on the planet are consumed in the United States, and we are only 5% of the world's population. It is. It's. But nobody questions anything. It's like, you know, we see media.
And my mother thinks I'm crazy because I do not. I could have the worst headache. I will not take over the counter. But I've always been that way. Very skeptical of medicine, and I don't know why. I just have always. I can't pinpoint what made me feel that way even as a child. I never.
No, well, I that reminded me of a bad joke I was going to say. Why. You know, they said this African American lady died of a headache, and they said why? She said because cotton picking days are over.
Period. Yes.
Pulling the cotton out of the bottle.
Yes.
That's like, a bad joke. Sorry. I digress.
You're so silly. I just feel like you have to ask yourself whenever you're putting foreign bodies into your body, what is this I'm ingesting? What is this? But we, you know, most of us do. I'm just always like, I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I do like to challenge.
Sure.
And I like to be aware.
Yes.
You know.
Informed, yes.
Yeah. And so, but like you said, most of us are like sheep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or cattle.
Right.
And so
being herded together, and there's just so many inconsistencies. And you know what, guys, those listening, some of you might be like, wow, you know, this is our savior, this vaccine, and somehow you're trashing this notion. Look,
no, we're just asking you to research the actual, go and research components of this specific vaccine.
That's right.
Then go and research what the components of this specific vaccine, you know, will allow for or cause, or, you know, and then you make your own judgment.
That's right. And people need to do that. The unfortunate thing is I heard them saying, we are going to make sure that we get this to the poor, underserved communities first. I'm like, really? Because you're normally not that benevolent with anything else.
Yeah, you
but
don't
all of a sudden, you guys are rushing trailer loads, and the U.S. military is the distributors. They've divided the country between UPS and FedEx. And the military is gonna help administrate this. I mean, come on, guys.
They had the general speaking about it.
If that's not a little creepy, and guess what? And this is the part that pisses me off. Okay, so we know people are dying. I am not up here saying this is not a real virus. I know people personally that have died. It is real. But the part that's really disruptive and disturbing is that if you really look at the statistics,
the cushioning those numbers.
They're cushioning the numbers because people die of a hangnail and they're calling it COVID. That started from the beginning and no one questioned that. But beyond that, there's 0 deaths from the flu. But last year, 60,000 people died of the flu. So there's a couple of inconsistencies, but the real problem is that if you really look at the numbers, it's comorbidity that's causing a lot of the deaths. The majority of people, and I'm not saying all of them, but the vast, vast majority of people have comorbidities: diabetes, high blood pressure, COPD,
kind of
autoimmune defidences, and then their body is susceptible to this virulent change.
It's just harder to fight off. The virus.
Oh, absolutely. So that is really the reality of it. It's now at a point where it is so close to that point where death can happen, but it happens with the comorbidities. And I think the people with comorbidities should really and truly have been isolated from the beginning. I think herd immunity, which everyone else that's relatively healthy would have essentially been able to affect, would be the case. So this has been a great discussion.
Yes, so many layers.
Yes, we are out of time. How do folks stay connected to Shawn Eaglin?
So you can contact me at either mogulonthemove.com, mogulonthemove.com. You can find me on Instagram at mogulonthemove, or you can reach me because I am a real estate agent as well.
Yes.
832-865-0625 if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shawn. I've enjoyed
I
this
enjoyed
conversation.
it. Yes.
Good stuff.
I enjoyed
As
this.
always, folks, you can stay connected to me at ninjatalks.com. Thank you for joining us. Up next, When Opinions Collide with John Arthur Fiala. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.